Did you know that as of August 17th, 2024, the way that real estate agents get paid has completely changed? If you're buying or selling a home, these new commission rules could impact you in ways you might not even expect. Who really benefits from these changes, and what does this all mean for you? In this video, I'll break down exactly what's changed, how agent compensation works now, and how you can make the smartest financial decisions in this new real estate landscape. I'm Jen with the Jenn Collins Group, your real estate expert and local guide to living in Danville and the surrounding East Bay communities. If you want the inside scoop about real estate in the East Bay, plus tips about buying, selling, or investing, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. Today, we're discussing the significant changes in real estate agent compensation that took effect on August 17, 2024, following the National Association of Realtors, or NAR's, settlement of several antitrust lawsuits. These changes have fundamentally altered how buyers and sellers navigate agent commissions and real estate transactions. First, a little background on the NAR settlement. In March of 2024, NAR agreed to a settlement to resolve multiple antitrust lawsuits alleging that its policies led to inflated broker commissions. Basically, this means that there were some agents in the marketplace that led sellers to believe that they must pay a standard or required commission. This has never been the case, and if you felt like it was, I'm sorry that you were misled by that agent. As part of the settlement, NAR consented to pay $418 million over approximately 4 years and implement substantial changes to its compensation practices by August 17th of 2024. One thing to be aware of is that this is a nationwide lawsuit. So yes, if you're buying or selling real estate in the United States, this affects you. The paperwork differs among state real estate departments, but the overall changes remain the same. One of the biggest changes to compensation practices is the removal of offers of compensation in the MLS. Before August of 2024, traditionally, multiple listing services, or your local MLS, displayed offers of compensation from listing brokers to buyer's brokers. This meant that sellers often predetermined the commission that would be paid to the buyer's agent, and then this was included in the MLS listing. When I, as a listing agent, would meet with a seller, we would agree on my compensation and the buyer's agent compensation, and the total shared amount would be documented in the listing agreement. Then I would note in the MLS what the buyer's agent's share of the compensation would be for agents representing a buyer on the home. No more. Now, as of August 17th, 2024, we are prohibited from displaying any offers of compensation in the MLS or any site that's linked to the MLS. When we sign a listing agreement now, the only compensation addressed in the listing agreement is that of the listing agent. There is no more shared compensation structure. That doesn't mean that sellers can't pay a buyer's agent's compensation. In fact, we'll get into that more in a moment. But you can't document if the seller is willing to pay a buyer's agent compensation, nor can you advertise how much the seller is willing to pay. This change means that buyer's agents must now negotiate their compensation directly with their clients and negotiate it as part of the overall terms of the purchase. Another big change to buyer agent compensation is that we are now required to have written buyer agreements. Before August of 2024, buyers could work with agents and view properties without any formal agreements. This created a bit of a Wild West scenario, with some buyers working with multiple agents and many agents spending lots of time with buyers they weren't actually representing. Now, agents representing buyers are required to enter into written agreements with their clients before touring homes. These agreements will document how much the agent will be compensated in the event a transaction occurs. Depending on the type of agreement, it can also tie a buyer solely to one agent. What does all this actually mean for home buyers today? Buyers are now directly involved in the negotiation of their agent's fees, so buyers must now negotiate and agree upon their agent's compensation upfront. This fee might be a separate expense that buyers need to consider. The goal of this lawsuit was to provide increased transparency for buyers. The mandatory written agreements provide buyers with a clear understanding of their agent's services and fees, and allow buyers to decide if their agent is providing sufficient value for the fees that they're charging. One thing that hasn't changed: fees have always been negotiable. They were last year, and they are today too. Each agent has the ability to charge their compensation based on the services they provide. Some agents do a lot, some do very little. Before you work with an agent, I recommend understanding exactly what they're going to do for you. Will your agent be at showings, or do they expect you to go to open houses alone? Will they actively search for properties for you, or will you be expected to find them on your own? What's their plan to find off-market opportunities for you in this inventory-constricted environment? Do they have vendors they can call on for inspections and repairs, or will you be expected to source those yourself? What kind of team will support you through the transaction? What's their level of experience in negotiating complex transactions? Will they be there for you if something goes wrong? Are they available for you after the transaction, or do they disappear? If you have questions about how to interview a buyer's agent, just ask us. Now the buyers need to agree with their agent before seeing homes what their compensation will be. It's important for buyers to know who might pay for this fee. Before August of 2024, sellers generally paid for the buyer's agent's fee as what they were offered in the shared compensation structure that we spoke about earlier. Now, sellers can still agree to pay a buyer's agent compensation, but it is negotiated as part of the overall transaction. It's currently March of 2025, and in our market, the vast majority of sellers are still providing buyer's agent compensation in order to attract buyers to their homes. The most important part for buyers to know is that if you sign an agreement with an agent for more than the seller may be willing to pay, you are responsible to pay the difference. For example, if your agent charges 3% and the seller's only willing to provide a 2% compensation, you're responsible for paying the 1% delta to your agent because of the written agreement you signed before seeing homes. Will some agents try to create a sliding scale like, oh, if the seller pays 3%, I'll take that, or if they offer 2%, I'll take that? No, you can't do that. The agreement is written that the compensation stands as a flat fee or percentage. It's not flexible based on what the seller might be offering. So please, buyers, be aware of what you're signing and agreeing to. On that note, in California, the buyer agreement cannot exceed 3 months. Also, your agent should document what areas you're looking for within the agreement. We've seen buyer agreements that cover the entire state of California, which is absolutely ridiculous. So buyers, please read your agreement carefully and know what you're signing. Of course, if you have questions, just ask us. I've explained what all this means for buyers, so let's take a look at it from the lens of a seller too. Sellers are no longer allowed to offer compensation to buyers' agents through the MLS or through any site linked to the MLS. This allows sellers to have more control over their selling costs and potentially negotiate different terms based on the specifics of each transaction. It's really important for sellers to look at each offer independently. For example, one offer might be at a price of $1 million with a 2% buyer's agent compensation. Assuming we're only considering the buyer's agent compensation, this would net the seller $980,000. The other offer might be at $1,010,000 with a 3% buyer's agent compensation. In this case, the seller would net just over $979,000. So even though the second offer is at a higher price, the net proceeds to the seller is slightly less. So it's important for your agent to be able to walk through these costs and your net proceeds with you for each potential buyer. Again, as a seller, you may want to consider offering competitive compensation to buyers' agents so you can attract more potential buyers. You should include this fee as you calculate your potential proceeds, and then if it's reduced or even eliminated, meaning that it's paid for by the buyer, you can be pleasantly surprised. So for buyers, read your agreement with the buyer's agent you choose to hire. Make sure you understand what their roles and responsibilities are to you, along with what service they'll provide and for what price. For sellers, be prepared to factor in the cost of a potential buyer's agent compensation so that when you get an offer on your home, you're not surprised when the buyer asks you to compensate their agent. The change initiated by the NAR settlement has introduced more flexibility and more paperwork into real estate transactions. But for the most part, at this time, not much has really changed other than how things are documented. Buyers should all now be using written agreements with their agents, and for the most part, sellers are still paying a buyer's agent compensation through the proceeds of the sale. I hope this episode has helped you understand what's really happening with real estate agent compensation in this new environment. If you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere in the East Bay in 2025, now more than ever, your strategy matters. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe for more market updates, buyer and seller tips, and information about living in the East Bay. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jenn Collins, your local guide and real estate expert here in the East Bay. We're here to help you find a home and a community you love. I appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.